Welcome back, everyone, for a new top 10 list. And I decided didn't want a lot of lights on, so I thought go with a little simpler lighting setup. So, with that said, this is my top 10 favorite games for 2021. So, with that said, hopefully, I'll see you enjoy the retro wave music in the background I chose. I will not be rating the Halo Infinite since I just got. I will end up probably putting down the favorite games of 2022. Since I'm not going to be playing the game until then, even if it came out previous year. Don't care. That's how I'll be doing it. But with that said, first up, some honorable mentions. First up, honorable mentions, indie game I played when I briefly had like a month of Game Pass not too long ago. I played 12 Minutes, which gets an honorable mention for Xbox One. Also for Nintendo Switch, Mario Golf Super Rush. Also, even though technically only just came out digitally, the Plus version this past year, it qualifies. Other honorable mention, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus for PS4. So with that said, coming in at number 10, I played on the Nintendo Switch since it came as a bundle of two games. First is an indie game. Coming in at number 10 is the game called Subnautica Below Zero, which is of course, sequel to the original classic Subnautica, which is a superb crafting game. Now, the thing I like about Subnautica 1 was the creepiness factor and the intimidation factor of the unknown throughout the ocean. It makes you want to just survive in pure spite of the creatures. And I actually appreciate that. I like a game that can at least add its own uniqueness. Now, Subnautica Below Zero is a bit different than the first game. It actually has a actual story to it, unlike the first game, which gives it a little bit more uniqueness. But I personally really enjoyed it. It doesn't play the best on the Switch, but still it plays pretty decent overall. Coming at number 9 is a game I haven't put too much time into. I've only played a little bit here and there because I've ended up stopping to play other games instead. Eventually, when I get around to completing the game, but comes at number 9 because I actually enjoyed it. It's a very colorful game. I like the backgrounds, like the environments, and it is interesting having like mutant animals being what revolves around in third person viewpoint. The game is called Biomutant. Definitely an interesting game. Played it on PS4. It is a good game, and I kind of hope more people actually give Biomutant a shot. It's a superb game. I'm glad I found it on sale back during Black Friday deals at Walmart. Coming at number 8, technically is just an HD. Admittedly, also I'm biased as all heck, even though I've only played a little bit of it so far, but I much prefer the gameplay to this version of the game. I think this is definitely a definitive way to play. Coming at number 8 is Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD for, of course, the Switch. And yeah, to me, this is the definitive way of playing Skyward Sword, bar none. I wouldn't recommend really going back to the Wii version. I absolutely, though, hated the Wii control scheme and everything. Which is why when I played Twilight Princess, I only played pretty much the GameCube version after I tried out the Wii version. Until I finally got the Wii U version of Angus, which is the best way to play now. That or GameCube. Just skip over the Wii version, unless you really want to try it. But with Skyward Sword, I definitely recommend getting the Switch version. It plays, I think, better. And it's more, I think, stronger, like, frame rate as well. It's more consistent than the Wii version. Coming at number 7 is a tie between two games technically I haven't completed yet, but that's because of backlog. I've chosen to stop playing one just to give some others a shot. Still, for what I've played so far, and admittedly I'm biased for both of these games, well, for the series they're both from. I'm going to be biased for. Tied at number 7 is between first Oddworld Soulstorm, which does actually play pretty well on the PS4, I did notice here and there if there was a lot of action going on screen. I did notice occasionally here and there maybe some hiccups on the frame rate, but for the most part, the frame rate is pretty consistent. There are sometimes I would see dips of maybe around like 40, 45 frames per second from the traditional 60 frames. So just know that if there's a lot of action, now hopefully it has been a few months since I played it. Hopefully by now they've done like a patch update or something to fix the frame rate issues, hopefully. But still, the gameplay is classic, more like the early era of like with Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, and Abe's Exodus, and not so much on gameplay like Munchie's Odyssey or like Stranger's Wrath. Just know that. Tied with it is a game I got through exclusively physical. You could only get through PlayAsia website, and that was Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater, which I've actually never played since it was only available digitally on the Nintendo Wii U, unfortunately. But I'd like to eventually try it if I can, the digital version, but I don't want to shell out $50 for digital version on the Wii U, unfortunately. And especially given you have very limited amount of space anyways on the hard drive. So that is the unfortunate. I am glad at least I was able to get a physical version for the PS4, because I want to make sure I can experience the game without any major frame rate problems. And I will say it does play at a very smooth, excellent frame rate. No, I haven't seen any hiccups, at least in the frame rate department with the game from what I played so far. It plays a little different than the original first trilogy of games, and I never got around to playing the fourth game. Unfortunately, since it was exclusively, I think, digital only to the Wii, if I'm not mistaken, which is unfortunate and sucks. At least I got to try out the one on the 3DS, and I'm glad I finally get to try out at least me and Blackwater. I'm happy. Finally get to try the game out. Coming at number 6, I think is arguably pretty much probably my favorite Switch game for 2021, but only coming in 6th place is Monster Hunter Rise. Like I think I mentioned in the past, personally, I've been enjoying Monster Hunter Rise more than Monster Hunter World. But keep in mind, I only have like the very base version of Monster Hunter World. I don't have Iceborne expansion or anything. But I haven't really played a lot of Monster Hunter World. Rise, at least I can say I've been enjoying. Plus, I like the fact it actually has a single player story to it more. It's more of a story driven game, unlike World, which is more of an open world type of thing. So I actually appreciate this. That's a little bit more linear, at least, and it doesn't completely separate and distance people like me who prefer solo play to playing in groups, which is much more what Monster Hunter World is about. So I actually appreciate that about Monster Hunter Rise. With that said, I would say Monster Hunter Rise, the thing that keeps it from getting higher on the list is there are definitely some frame rate issues here and there with Rise, and you can tell the Switch really is being pushed to its limits power-wise for Rise. It's really pushing it. So it makes me kind of worried unless there ends up being a Switch Pro eventually, which I hope they do get around to making a more powerful version of the Switch, because given how it is with like Monster Hunter Rise, it makes me worried about that future open world Sonic game in the works for Switch, which, yeah, I will get regardless because it's Sonic. Coming at number 5 is a really genuinely fun and interesting side game, um, and that is Persona 5 Strikers. Comes in 5th place. Even though I haven't really played Persona 5 yet, I decided to try Strikers just because hack and slash type of game, and I love those type of games. I love my Dynasty Warrior style games. Here and there, if you just want to do like just play a bunch of mindless action and stuff and just destroy lots of people and tear through them. This game, really, if you enjoy Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, or games like that, or Hyrule Warriors games such as that gameplay wise, Persona 5 Strikers will take care of you, and I think you'll genuinely enjoy. I would say I would probably highly recommend getting the game for our PS4, Xbox One, over again for the Switch, because I haven't played on the Switch, but I have a feeling that the Switch will probably have a hard time keeping up with the power necessary to run games like Persona 5 Strikers, given how it did sometimes playing the second Hyrule Warriors game on Switch had definitely some frame rate issues big time. With that said, coming at number 4, another sort of hack and slash type of game, this time from Namco Bandai, coming in 4th place, which I really have enjoyed this game. I still need to complete it about halfway through, but I love it. I love the unique art style of the creature designs and stuff. Very much an anime aesthetic game, however, so just know that going in. But I enjoy the over-the-top ridiculous story and stuff for what it is. I'm used to that kind of stuff for these kind of games. But for me, coming at number 4 is Scarlet Nexus, which was a game I was looking forward to in the first place, and it actually plays pretty solid on PS4. So with that said, coming in at number 3 is a tie between two games. One game I have completed, and the other one not quite there yet. I'm probably between 50-60% mark, but I've really genuinely enjoyed both games. Tied at number 3 for me is first the indie game Little Nightmares 2, though I have yet to actually play completely the very first Little Nightmares, though it is on PlayStation Now, so I'll probably get around to playing it on PS Now eventually. But Little Nightmares 2 is a superb game. I love the gameplay. It is great. I love the environments, the creature designs are superb. And yeah, it definitely messes with you at times, but it is definitely a game I highly recommend to give a shot. Also, if you like stop motion style stuff, Tim Burton art style, you'll probably appreciate also Little Nightmares too. With It Tied is definitely one of, I think, probably the best Resident Evil games in a long time. At least from the story department, and the style of the boss battles are quite interesting. For me, tied at number 3 is Resident Evil Village. And yeah, and because of playing on PS4, even though I have a PS4 Pro, thank goodness, but still I did occasionally have some frame rate dips here and there. But I will say, I actually think the game really kind of picks up for me enjoyment, even though I would say my favorite part, at least so far in the game, is definitely leading up to the big battle with the first major boss in the game, of course, a certain lady character, which is quite fun of a boss. I don't like the big final boss fight with her that much. However, I will say I do definitely enjoy the next part I play, which was up to where I stopped at the end with like inside the mansion, which really feels like old school Resident Evil with the creepiness factor and everything like that, with the creepy like demonic doll and stuff, which I've always been weirded out by dolls and stuff, going all the way back to a kid. Dolls and like clowns kind of mess with me. So yeah, I found that genuinely pretty creepy, that boss fight and everything. So I will say, just for specifically though, I think big part is the second part of the gameplay with that mansion and everything, because it really harkens back to the old school Resident Evil games of the past, and that really made me enjoy it. I'm hoping the rest of the game, the end, is at least this level of enjoyment so far, because right now I would say I like, honestly, Village more than Resident Evil 7. And I thought Resident Evil 7 is in like my top 5 favorite Resident Evils, but now I'm tempted to put Resident Evil Village in my top 10 or top 5 favorite Resident Evils. Definitely already in my top 10, that's for sure. Coming at number 2 is a tie between two indie games. The first up is a superb game, only recently started playing, but I love the aesthetic, I love the world, I love the art style absolutely, which is why I picked it up. Plus, it was like a third off, like $20. It's actually an EA original made by the same studio that did another game I really enjoyed in the past, Sea of Solitude. The game is called Lost in Random, involving dice and other things, but the creature designs really feel like a Tim Burton stop motion film. Just the way it was done, love it. Love the worlds that was created. I like the music. I just like everything about the game from an artistic standpoint. It's, I think, the best looking game for me, personally, enjoyment wise. even if it isn't the most beautiful overall. But tied with it is another game I've played a good amount of, and I've really enjoyed both on PS4. Got them both digitally because I don't think either game are available physical. The other game is called The Pathless, which originally was going to be a PS5 exclusive, but then they ended up deciding to give it a digital. Took advantage when it was on sale, got it like 40% off. Glad I did. Pathless is superb and great. You can definitely tell, like, it took some elements from platformers, Breath of the Wild, but also I can see elements of games like also Journey involved in its creation. I love the flow of the gameplay and everything is great. Coming at number one, though, I am happy I ended up living up to my expectations. Coming at number one, favorite game of the year is this game, little game called, of course, Bridge of Spirits, as I just nickname it as. This game is beautiful and gorgeous. The world is amazing. Sadly, at about the half point of the game, I started seeing occasionally some frame rate dips here and there. But up until then, I was getting pretty much a perfect 60 frames per second. Keep in mind this game was made originally for PS5 in mind. But even with the frame rate dips at time to time, I would say it was staying around a 40-45 rate, or rather frames per second ratio. Though as it goes, sometimes later in the game, it dips. Mostly when there's a lot of creatures on screen at the same time you're trying to fight. Just know that with the PS4, even though I have the Pro model, still there is that. I do love, though, the platforming elements. It is definitely basically it's a third-person action game with also platforming / puzzle elements to the game, and that makes me love it. You can tell it took some notes, I would say, from games that kind of remind me. There's some elements in it that remind me of Pikmin with the spirit creatures. Um, with some of the scale, the way you would level up some of your skills and things, kind of reminded me a bit of Gravity Rush. But the combat and stuff is very solid. That is where this game excels, is in the combat, and I love the boss fights. They're genuinely a lot of fun. The world looks gorgeous. The soundtrack is amazing. I love it to death. I love the overall art design and direction. It's solid for being an indie developed game. This blows out of the water most AAA action games I've seen in recent memory. This is arguably by far my favorite game of 2021 and deserves it. And yeah, for this past year, indie games ended up basically grabbing about half of my spots. Not surprised, indie games are getting better and better, and you're finding more and more bigger games. Now keep in mind, you can get this digital deluxe edition for physical, I think like $40 in store for PS4, and I think it's like $50 for PS5. If you do have a PS4, as long as you have like a Pro or some, I would recommend getting this even with a few dips still. The Pro can handle the game for the most part pretty well and good. I'm not sure how well this game would hold, though, on like a PS4 Slim or a PS4 like base model. I'm really not sure how well it would handle. But on the Pro, for the most part, it is solid. The gameplay, the puzzles, I love it all. I love just the animation and everything. The flow is excellently well done. I love the ability she has. And I'll admit, there's certain elements about the creatures and the music backgrounds that kind of give me a harken back and feel to things like Studio Ghibli worlds and stuff, like Miyazaki stuff. You can tell, I think, that some of the people who worked on this game were fans of, I think, Hayao Miyazaki works. And specifically things like, I would say, Spirited Away. I was getting some vibes here and there of that, which is my all-time favorite anime movie. Anyways, with that said, that is it, and stay tuned for my review on this game in the near future, as well as my eventual, when I get around to playing and completing. Look forward to my review on the single-player campaign for Halo Infinite. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. See you again. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and have a good 2022. Stay safe, everyone.